Coming to get you, Bobber.
In terms of timeline, we know that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is even more muddled up than the Halloween franchise. Halloween's kind of cemented itself in a good timeline at the moment, but the Texas Chainsaw Massacre still hasn't been able to do that since the remake, to be honest. I think the remake and the prequel were a good duology, and they could have expanded on that, whether they did more prequels or sequels, but it didn't happen, and Platinum Dunes missed the mark on that because they didn't continue on with the franchise. Then they had the Texas Chainsaw 2013, which was an abomination. The timeline was terrible. They tried to make it a direct sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and they didn't know their arse from their elbow, as they say in Scotland, when it comes to what year that movie was set. And then we got Leatherface from 2017. Again, that was a prequel to the original, and again they messed that up as well. So we've not had a good timeline or a steady timeline in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, and obviously that's happening again because we're getting another reboot that's another direct sequel to the original. Now, I've been following this one for quite some time since Fede Alvarez attached himself to it. Directors came and went, they shot some stuff and scrapped it, so this has been a mess since the beginning, and I expected that to happen. Eventually we got a director to come on, they finished the movie. They thought what they had was a good movie, which I was expecting to be wrong. And I heard that there was test screenings and it didn't do well at all. It was terrible, apparently. So they didn't really know where to go with that. And since the test screening, and since we got that website with the little teaser of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre face, or Leatherface's face, we've had nothing since then. No more posters, no trailers, nothing. But the latest news is that it's finally coming out, but not theatrically anymore. They decided they're going to just bring it out on Netflix, and that's it. Now, that's not a bad thing. You know, you could have had worse. You could have had it direct to TV like Sci-Fi Channel or True Movies, or it could have just been scrapped altogether. But Netflix have taken it. Now, if you're looking at streaming platforms, Netflix is the biggest streaming platform in the world as far as I'm aware, so it's not a bad thing to bring it out on Netflix. It's just not going to make as much money, or assume it's not going to make as much money as they wanted to theatrically. But just think about it, if you bring out a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie in the theatres these days, especially with the pandemic, it's going to make little to no money anyway. My neighbours decided to cut their grass, well done. Anyway, I'm not expecting much from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even before the news that it was going to Netflix, I wasn't expecting much. I would have went to see it in the cinema if it came out in the cinema, but when it comes to Texas Chainsaw, it's a love or hate with this franchise, because there are some movies in the franchise that I love and adore, but then a lot of the movies in the franchise are awful, and it kills me to watch these movies sometimes because they're so bad. But I always find myself coming back to them because of the Leatherface character. I think if they get Leatherface right, not a lot matters, and if you get Leatherface right, that's what I loved about, well, I loved even more about the prequel and the remake, because not only did they get Leatherface right and scary, they got the family dynamic perfect as well. You need to get that to have a good Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. You're going to have a lot of dead bodies in there, and a lot of those characters won't matter either. But again, going back to the prequel and the remake, the victims in those movies were also interesting. Everything about the prequel and the remake were interesting. And since then, and even before then, in some of the movies, it's been non-existent, and they've not been able to recapture that since. 2 movies after the prequel, they weren't able to do that. So I just want something that's a semi-decent movie. I don't think we're going to get that with this new Texas Chainsaw movie, but if we do, then perfect. But with Netflix taking it on, sometimes Netflix take on movies that are actually pretty good. Sometimes Netflix just take it on for the name only, and it's not good at all. So it could be either way. I have absolutely no idea. But at the end of the day, it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and I am looking forward to it. Now that Netflix have taken it on, are we finally going to get a trailer for this movie? Are we finally going to get a poster? I think so. I think we'll get one soon. I think they'll probably drop the movie around January time as well. It's a time where not just theatrically, but anywhere, they bring out most likely dog shit in January. There are some good gems in January releases, like hopefully Scream 5 or Scream. But I think there's still, we still have that horror season between October and January with Halloween, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Jeepers Creepers, and Scream for January, so they might as well just plop it in there, plop it in January for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But hopefully, because of that, this is September now, hopefully we're getting a trailer at some point. If we get a trailer, at least we can gauge as an audience if it's going to be good or not. And I think that's one of the reasons why they haven't given us anything, because it's probably looking really bad, and trying to cut a trailer to make a movie look good, it's not always easy, especially if all of the movie is terrible. So that's another reason why I think it's not going to be good, is because we haven't had anything yet. So hopefully we get a trailer within the next few weeks, maybe a month or so. Hopefully it looks decent, and hopefully we get a good, decent Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. But I'm not going to hold them to ransom for that, because I know it could be bad.
Do your thing, cuz.
So what are your thoughts on the latest news of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Did you see it happening, or were you hoping for a theatrical release? As always guys, leave the comments down below, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.